Tonight, the Prime Minister tells the BBC Rachel Reeves will be Chancellor for a very long time. It comes after she was clearly upset during Prime Minister's questions in the Commons.
Nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with any discussion between me and Rachel, nothing to do with the matters of this week.
After a brutal few days for the government in the wake of its welfare U-turns, Chris Mason will have the latest. Also on the programme. The US rapper Sean Diddy Combs is found guilty of prostitution offences, though not guilty of sex trafficking.
P. Diddy is guilty, but only of the least serious charges. His lawyer's inside now, arguing he should be immediately released pending sentence. We'll have the latest.
Emma Raducanu cruises to victory at Wimbledon, one of 3 British players today to win through to the 3rd round.
And on BBC London, Heathrow Airport is considering legal action against the national grid after a fire and power cut left the airport shut earlier this year.
Hello, good evening. The Prime Minister has told the BBC that Rachel Reeves will remain Chancellor for a very long time to come, after she was visibly upset in the Commons earlier today. The Chancellor wiped away tears as Sir Keir Starmer was defending the government's welfare reforms following yesterday's U-turn that's left a £5 billion hole in the public finances. Keir Starmer has said tonight that her upset was caused by a personal matter. Our political editor, Chris Mason, is at Westminster. Chris.
Jane, politics can be a uniquely exposing business to be in, and the questions that the Chancellor faces have always been tough and are now tougher as a result of that benefit shambles over the last 24 hours, over the last week. It is also true that for politicians, what's happening in their private, their personal life can shape their mood too, and it's right that that is private. In addition, we're told that the Chancellor had something of a to-do with the Speaker of the Commons today. The Speaker's office has not commented. And as for any of us, a mix of factors can contribute to our mood.
Have you lost control of your MPs, Prime Minister?
You know the feeling, sometimes it's just not your day. Sir Keir Starmer steadying himself as he tries to steady his government the lunchtime after the night before. Destination the Commons.
We now come to Prime Minister's questions.
Where one thing stood out today. Take a look at the Chancellor, as the Conservative leader pointed out.
She looks, Mr. Speaker, she's pointing at me, she looks absolutely miserable. Labour MPs, yeah, she looks absolutely miserable.
We could see Rachel Reeves was in tears. I was looking down from the press gallery and we repeatedly saw her wiping them away from her cheeks. All this the night after a spectacular U-turn on benefits policy, which makes the Chancellor's already difficult job even harder.
The fact is, Labour MPs are going on the record saying that the Chancellor is toast, and the reality is that she is a human shield for his incompetence. In January, he said that she would be in post till the next election. Will she really?
Tonight, speaking to the BBC's Political Thinking podcast, the Prime Minister was asked to address that question about the Chancellor, her tears and her future.
She's made it clear it's a personal matter, and I'm not going to go into the personal matter of a colleague. What I will say is that she's done an excellent job as Chancellor. We have delivered inward investment to this country in record numbers, £120 billion. That'll be measured in jobs. We've created conditions for wages to go up, and we've jointly worked on the spending review, which is very broadly popular. She's done a fantastic job. She and I work together, we think together, and in the past there have been examples, I won't give any specific, of chancellors and prime ministers who weren't sort of in lockstep. We're in lockstep.
People assumed it was because of politics, that she decided to quit, or you'd said to her, Rachel, I'm sorry.
It's wrong. I can just tell you that. That's absolutely wrong. Got nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with what's happened this week. Should be Chancellor for a very long time to come, because this project that we've been working on to change the Labour Party, to win the election, change the country, that is a project which the Chancellor and I have been working on together.
And key to that project now, sorting out the hole in the budget caused by this week's benefits row.
It's going to cost millions. This is the first Prime Minister in history to propose a bill to save money who ended up with a bill which costs money.
But I tell you what won't help people back into work, won't help control the costs, and that is voting to keep the broken system. And that is what they did last night.
The Prime Minister is clear his political fate and that of his neighbour, the Chancellor, are intertwined. They both know they've had better days, better weeks than this one.
And so, Chris, where then does all of this leave the Prime Minister and the Chancellor tonight?
That is a key question, Jane. There's no doubt it's been grim for the last few days. You've seen that today, you saw it yesterday, you've seen it for much of the last 7 days. And at just the point, as we were seeing there in that podcast interview with Nick Robinson that you'll soon be able to listen to on BBC Sounds, that the Prime Minister wants to reflect on his first year in office and what he believes he has achieved. And yet he's doing that against the backdrop of the benefit shambles and then these wider questions. It is undeniably the case, and the Prime Minister touched on this, that he and the Chancellor are the duopoly at the heart of this government. They were central to the kind of rebranding of Labour in opposition. And the Chancellor makes an argument that being seen to be economically credible, and that means being careful as she sees it as far as management of the national finances are concerned, is absolutely central. But that's the building block upon which everything else is built, and that leads to tough choices and trade-offs, and frankly some stark conversations to come with Labour backbenchers in the context of the last couple of days. As for the Prime Minister, tomorrow we'll see him move on to the issue of the NHS, an issue that broadly tends to bind Labour together. He'll be talking about the government's 10-year plan for the health service. My goodness, he's got to hope that that conversation can begin binding the party together, because frankly he needs all the glue he can find at the moment, given how unstuck they have been and how deep these rows have been over the last couple of days.
Chris, thank you. Chris Mason. The American rapper Sean Diddy Combs has been found guilty of prostitution offences at a court in New York after a distressing 7-week trial. He faces a maximum prison sentence of 10 years, but Combs, who's 55, was cleared of more serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering. I should warn you that John Sudworth's report from New York contains images and descriptions you may find upsetting.
With no cameras in court, the vloggers read the texts from inside to their fans.
Count 1, not guilty. Sex trafficking, not guilty. Transportation to prostitution, guilty.
And the crowd outside erupted.
Free Paul, you all will be free. I don't care what you guys say.
As Sean Diddy Combs' supporters welcomed his acquittal on the most serious charges.
So some people suggest America hasn't seen a trial like this since the Michael Jackson child abuse case 2 decades ago. You can see the scenes outside the court here. The vloggers and the streamers, the supporters and the opponents all reacting as news of that verdict comes in. What do you think of the verdict?
What I think of the verdict? I think he should have been not guilty on everything.
I did it before, do it again. For a man once feted by American high society, showered with awards and given an honorary key to New York City,
To the city!
the 7-week trial revealed another side, controlling, violent and abusive. This hotel security video was central to the case, showing him assaulting his then-girlfriend, the singer Cassie Ventura, as she tried to leave one of the so-called freak-offs, the hotel sex parties involving multiple male escorts, large quantities of drugs and baby oil supplied by his assistants, which could last for days. The question for the jury, though, was whether this was a criminal enterprise designed to force the 2 alleged victims into sex against their will, or whether, as Combs claimed, the women willingly took part. Domestic abuse, his lawyers argued, is not the same as sex trafficking and racketeering, and the jury agreed. In court, the rapper fell to his knees. those charges could have meant life in jail. And for his family, seen here leaving court, there was also relief. For his opponents, though, the guilty verdicts on the lesser prostitution-related charges, which carry a maximum of 10 years each, provide some vindication.
Of course, we would have liked to have seen a conviction on the sex crimes in RICO, but we understand beyond a reasonable doubt is a high standard, and we're just pleased that he still faces substantial jail time.
Combs's defence lawyers argued there were racial undertones to this case, the targeting of a black man for his sexual preferences and the use of prostitutes. They'll now be pushing for as short a sentence as possible.
You can probably see the crowd gathered around me here. The scene's repeated on the opposite side of the road there. It's impossible to ignore the imprint of the Me Too movement in this case, a powerful man being challenged over his behaviour going back years. And some will see in the acquittals on those serious charges a sign that that movement is losing some of its power. But for Sean Combs and his supporters, many of whom are gathered around me here, this is a sign that he has been cleared because he was being victimised. And we will know very soon, Jane, as a result of the arguments going on in that court, whether he will indeed be allowed now to walk free while he awaits his sentence.
John, thank you. John Sudworth there at the court. Well, Sean Combs's trial heard weeks of testimony from former partners and staff about the drug-fuelled sexual encounters known as freak-offs, which sometimes lasted for days. The BBC's investigations correspondent Rhianna Croxford has been speaking to a former assistant to Combs about their experiences working for him. Phil Pines is one of dozens of people to have filed a civil lawsuit against the music mogul in the last year. This report contains some explicit details.
Sean Combs, partying inside his Miami mansion. It was one of his homes raided last year by the FBI. At the heart of this case were so-called freak-offs, elaborate drug-fuelled orgies that Combs had with his former girlfriends.
There was like a laundry list of items that we would prepare on a daily basis, just in case these so-called nights would happen.
Phil Pines worked as a personal assistant for Sean Combs between 2019 and 2021. He's suing his former boss for sexual harassment and unfair working conditions. He says he was required to organise and clean up after freak-off events, often receiving voice notes like these.
Hey, Phil, I need a plan B. Can you give me 20 Xanax, please? Phil, I need some Cialis. Phil, can you come back upstairs to help me set up the red light?
How regular were these nights?
I mean, it wasn't uncommon for it to happen 4 or 5 nights a week. I witnessed one woman. I took her home from his Miami residence, and she uttered the words to me, I've never done anything like that before. And she was kind of shaking and shivering, like she was coming down off the drugs.
Lists like these, ordering coffees alongside lubricants, were sent by Chief of Staff Christina Coram.
This is my soul sister right here.
She had another name for these sex events, Wild King Nights.
What was the aftermath like?
Awful. I would wear gloves, I wear a mask.
Pine says Combs's drugs were often stored here in this Gucci bag and concealed in a safe on his private jet when they travelled abroad.
Marijuana, other drugs, mushrooms, ketamine, ecstasy, all that stuff. I don't want to take that stuff. It was a requirement.
On this trip to Italy in 2021, Pine says they were stopped by officials while carrying drugs.
It was all on me because I'm the one who packs it, I'm the one who transports it. You know, I'm thinking, oh, like, I'm gonna have to take the fall for this. I was terrified.
But Pine says one incident with Combs changed his life forever. The moment he says he was instructed to have sex with a female guest.
I felt cold, but I also felt so much pressure. She gave me consent. I performed for a little bit. Once I kind of saw him out of my peripheral that he was gone, pulled up my pants, got out of there quickly. It was a power move. It's manipulation.
Responding to Pine's lawsuit, his legal team say that Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted or sex trafficked anyone, man or woman, adult or minor. We live in a world where anyone can file a lawsuit for any reason. His former Chief of Staff, Christina Coram, has previously said these false allegations are causing irreparable and incalculable damage to my reputation. While Combs' criminal trial is now over, his legal issues are not, as he still has more than 60 civil lawsuits to defend. Rhianna Croxford, BBC News.
And Jane, we can tell you that we're getting news from inside the court that Sean Combs's petition for bail to be released pending sentence has been denied. That will be a victory for the prosecution. They were saying his past pattern of behaviour meant that he ought to stay inside while the judge considered the sentence, and a real disappointment for the defence. And in denying the bail, we may be getting a sign from the judge that he is indeed considering a still substantial sentence in this case.
John, thank you again, John Sudworth. And just to tell you, you can hear more reaction to today's verdict on the podcast, Diddy on Trial. That, of course, is on BBC Sounds. The Princess of Wales has been talking publicly about the difficulties of recovering from cancer treatment. During a visit to a hospital in Essex, she spoke to patients about putting on a brave face and how a cancer diagnosis is life-changing for the whole family, not just the person with the disease. Our senior royal correspondent Daniela Ralph reports.
A member of the royal family who is herself recovering from cancer treatment. This was a visit that was personal for the Princess of Wales.
About the right.
In Colchester Hospital's Wellbeing Garden, she planted Catherine roses, being sold for a cancer charity. And she spoke of the importance of nature and the outdoors.
To have this environment here for patients who are going through the clinical treatment, the bangs, through to the Wellbeing Hub. Yeah. To have this space for them, I think it's just so valuable.
Sometimes it can be helpful to say.
In talking to patients and staff, she shared how challenging life can be once chemo or radiotherapy was over.
You put on a sort of brave face that stresses them through treatment. Treatment's done.
Yeah.
So I can crack on and get back to normal again, but actually, the phase afterwards is really, is a really difficult journey. You're not necessarily in the clinical team any longer, but you're not able to function normally at home as you perhaps once used to.
The princess's return to public life has been slow and careful. She didn't make it to Royal Ascot, but she was front and centre with her family at Trooping the Colour 3 weeks ago.
To have the wellbeing and holistic support here.
Her words today were candid. Royal sources described them as an honest reflection of her feelings, with people who'd shared a similar path. Daniela Ralph, BBC News.
Now, Newsnight is coming up shortly on BBC Two. Here's Paddy O'Connell.
Jane, hello. Labour's crying shame, have its rebels overshot, and what next for welfare? Plus that breaking bail news from the Sean Combs trial. Will be live with a lawyer from the US. Newsnight live around the world on BBC News and iPlayer, and moments away on BBC Two.
Thanks, Paddy O'Connell. The High Court has ordered a robust and independent investigation into how MI5 gave false evidence to multiple courts about the identity of a neo-Nazi agent who abused women. The security service repeatedly said it would neither confirm nor deny whether the man, known as Agent X, worked for them, despite having previously told the BBC that he did. Justices have rejected 2 official inquiries into the matter carried out by MI5. Daniel De Simone has this report.
After MI5's Director General Sir Ken McCallum apologised for his organisation's false evidence to 3 courts.
Thank you for joining me today.
A full investigation was promised. But MI5's explanations have now been found by the High Court to be fundamentally flawed, and its third in command to have given new misleading evidence. In a damning judgment, a panel of 3 judges said MI5 had withheld critical material from the court, material which undermined MI5's position. They said that investigations carried out by MI5 to date suffer from serious procedural deficiencies, and we cannot rely on their conclusions. This retired judge is shocked.
I haven't seen a case like this in the course of my career. It's a judgment which finds against MI5 top to bottom, beginning to end. And the whole tone of it bespeaks that.
The case concerns this MI5 agent who used his state role to coerce his girlfriend. He's seen here attacking her with a machete. When the BBC sought to name him, the government took us to court and gained him legal anonymity. But MI5 gave false evidence by saying it hadn't disclosed he was an agent to me. We proved the evidence was false with a recording of an MI5 officer talking about the agent. MI5's Director General has apologised again today and says they're working to ensure this doesn't happen again. The lawyer for the MI5 agent's ex-girlfriend says the security service's conduct remains a problem.
For an authority that's expressing its contrition for what's happened and indicating that it's taking this all really seriously, its behaviour doesn't reflect that.
After new investigation reports on how the false evidence came to be given, the judges will decide whether to launch an unprecedented contempt of court process. This has become a scandal without end for MI5. Daniel Desimoni, BBC News at the Royal Courts of Justice.
It's been confirmed that the head of the Royal Navy has been sacked after an investigation into his conduct. The Ministry of Defence said the behaviour of Sir Ben Key had fallen far short of the values and standards expected. Sir Ben, who had stood down from the role, says he deeply regrets his conduct and wished to apologise. He'd been investigated for an affair with a junior colleague. The Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of Tibet, has confirmed that he will have a successor after his death, ending years of uncertainty about whether the institution would end when he dies. He made the announcement in the week of his 90th birthday and made it clear he wants China to have no part in his successor's selection. The Dalai Lama, whose followers believe is the god of compassion in human form, has lived in exile in India since 1959 after China annexed Tibet. Journalists' access to Tibet is heavily restricted and the BBC has been continually denied entry to the region. But our China correspondent Laura Bicker has visited the town of Aba in Sichuan province, which has for decades been at the centre of Tibetan resistance to the Communist Party.
We head to the monastery before dawn to avoid detection in this tightly controlled part of China. The monks gather for their morning prayers. You'll find no portraits of the Dalai Lama here. That would be illegal. Even talking to us is a risk, but it's one some are willing to take.
How are things here for you?
Things are not good here, he says, but stops there. Others are more candid.
The Chinese government has poisoned the air in Tibet. We Tibetans are denied basic human rights. The Chinese government continue to oppress and persecute us. It is not a government that serves the people. That's just the way it is. That's the reality.
China maintains Tibetans are free to practice their faith. But monks we spoke to claim their Buddhist culture, their very identity, is being eroded. Tibetan children cannot study at the monastery as they did in the past. They must go to state-run schools and learn Mandarin. Surveillance is pervasive. Once found, we're followed by at least 8 men.
The party believes that it needs to assimilate Buddhism with its ideals and beliefs, and they say they're doing this in the name of national unity.
Even in exile, the Dalai Lama is a spiritual figurehead for Tibetans, a symbol of resistance. As he prepares to celebrate his 90th birthday, he's made it clear his office will choose a successor after he dies, not China. Beijing will not accept this.
The reincarnation of the Dalai Lama must take place inside China through a process of evaluation and with final approval from the central government.
China claims it's not planning to destroy Buddhist culture. It's investing in it, modernizing it. But despite decades of effort, there are still two worlds on this Himalayan plateau, where heritage and religion collide with Communist Party hopes of unity and control. Laura Bicker, BBC News, ABBA.
Now, it's been a good day for several British players at Wimbledon, with Emma Raducanu, Cameron Norrie and Sonia Cartel all going through to the third round. But Katie Boulter went out, and the challenge for Ollie Tarvit, the world number 733, who faced defending champion Carlos Alcaraz, was too much, but he did put up a spirited fight. Andy Swiss was watching.
Remember that heat wave? Fans arrived to more traditional British weather for a hectic day of British interest. And as ever, all eyes were on Emma Raducanu. After recent injury problems, Raducanu's been playing down her chances, and she was up against a former champion, Marketa Vondrousova. So this was a revelation.
Oh, she's got it.
It was like the Raducanu of old, as she raced to the first set and just kept on going.
Oh, so good!
It was exhilarating stuff, and it was soon all over.
Game, set, match, Raducanu.
The smile said it all. Raducanu will next face the world number one, Arina Sabalenka, but this was some display, and she knew it.
I think today I played really, really well. I think there was some... The atmosphere was electric, and I'm just so happy to get to play another match here.
Elsewhere, there were mixed fortunes for British players. Defeat for Katie Boulter, but delight for Sonia Cartel. She's through to the third round, as is Cameron Norrie, who came roaring back to knock out 12th seed Frances Tiafoe. Well, for all the big names on show here, a lot of the focus was on the lowest ranked player in the men's draw. The world number 733, hoping for the biggest shock in Wimbledon history. 21-year-old university student Ollie Tarvit was up against the defending champion Carlos Alcaraz, and at times he outplayed him.
Oh, superb!
The crowd loved it, and fair to say, so did he. But the fairy tale didn't materialise. Alcaraz threw in straight sets. For Tarvit, the end of this adventure, but he'll be hoping the start of even greater things. Andy Swiss, BBC News, Wimbledon.
In the first day of the second test at Edgbaston, India made 310 for 5, having been put into bat by England. The visitors' captain, Shubman Gill, made a century and was still unbeaten on 114 at the close. The Women's Euros have kicked off in Switzerland this evening. England and Wales both play their first game on Saturday. Tonight there have been wins for Finland and Norway, who beat the host nation, as Katie Gornall reports.
Switzerland's sweltering summer party has arrived. Few expect the hosts to win these Euros, but they can certainly help make it special.
Most of the games are sold out, so I think the whole event will be a big success.
Recently the interest started to grow, like more and more, and I really hope it will give a boost to women's football in Switzerland.
Well, Switzerland may not have the pedigree of other footballing nations, but you can feel the enthusiasm for this tournament here. They are embracing their role as hosts.
And after a Swiss welcome in the opening ceremony, it was time for the football to take Enjoy Your Own Party. Switzerland will hope better times lie ahead. Katie Gornall, BBC News, Basel.
Well, that takes us to a look at the weather prospects. Ben Rich has joined me, and goodness, those footballers were playing in some temperatures, Ben.
It was extremely hot today. Temperatures in Switzerland into the mid to high 30s Celsius, Jane, and they were not alone, because although the heat has eased somewhat here at home, have a look at some of these temperatures from today. Western parts of Germany up above 39 degrees, 38 there in Berlin. We should be seeing something more like 25 degrees in Berlin at this time of year. But for us, things have cooled down, and with that cooler air working in and bumping into that hot air, we have seen quite a few showers and thunderstorms across Western Europe during today. Those have all cleared from our shores, though, so for tonight we see long, clear spells overhead, and it is going to be a considerably cooler and fresher night than some of us have been used to recently. 6 to 12 degrees. That might well come as a relief for some. Into tomorrow, well, split fortunes, because high pressure will be building across the south of the UK. This frontal system up to the north will bring some cloud and some showers. So across Northern Ireland, Western Scotland, we start the day with cloud and showers. That cloud works into eastern and southern Scotland too. Much of England and Wales seeing some sunny spells, bit of patchy cloud and just a small chance of 1 or 2 showers here. Temperatures are 15 degrees for Stornoway, 25 in London. So yes, we stick in that cooler, fresher air. Now, as we head into Friday, high pressure sticks around down towards the south, but quite an active frontal system moving in across the north and the west of the UK. So for Northern Ireland, for Scotland, we will see some outbreaks of quite heavy rain on Friday. Some strong winds as well. Gusts of 40 miles per hour around some of these western coasts. Further south and east, some spells of sunshine. It actually starts to warm up again, but still 27 degrees. We're not going back into the mid-30s. And then into the weekend, well, very mixed prospects. We will see showers, longer spells of rain. We stick with that cooler feel as well. That's how it looks in the 4 capitals of the UK, but you can, of course, check your local weather prospects by having a look at the BBC weather app. That's all from me. Jane.
Ben, thanks very much. And that is the BBC News at 10 for tonight. Now it's time for the very latest wherever you are. From the team here, good night.